Coming up on our Thanksgiving edition of Raceline, we're going to the Richard Petty driving experience. We'll talk about the Thanksgiving holiday and how NASCAR drivers will spend the weekend off, or at least part of it. Those stories, our fans of the week, and Ben's Corner all here today on Raceline.
It's Thanksgiving weekend, and we're coming to you from a usual environment, a racetrack. Unusual circumstances, however. This weekend, instead of broadcasting the race and getting news coverage for next week's show, we're going to be in the race. We're at the Richard Petty driving experience here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Moore. Happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to this week's edition of Raceline. You might have often wondered about driving a race car. It looks pretty easy watching on television, listening on the radio, or sitting up in the grandstands. But behind the wheel, and I can't speak from firsthand experience because I haven't done it yet, but they tell me it's a whole different world. And we're going to find out about that here today and tell you how you could experience that as well. Christmas is right around the corner. This will be a great Christmas present for a race fan in your life. That's a jets from nearby Nellis Air Force Base flying by. I don't think we'll be going that fast, but I'll bet we'll get pretty quick out of the racetrack when we get into it a little bit later on. We'll do that later in the show. First, let's talk about what's happening in the racing world. The season's over. The next big event is the Winston Cup Awards Banquet at the Waldorf Astoria. Here's Dan Hubbard on our X1R Raceline preview.
Well, the 2001 season is over. Good thing, too, because my voice is starting to give out. I intend to give it a rest over the Thanksgiving holiday. But how about the drivers? What do they have to be thankful for, and how are they going to spend their days off?
We'll spend some time with the grandparents and the families on Thanksgiving, and it's off to hunting Friday and Saturday.
I'd like to go find a golf course somewhere and play some golf. I think I've been home 2 days in the last 2 months, so I'll be glad when season's over for about 3 days, and then I'll be ready to go racing again. Might do a little hunting, might do a little fishing, might go play a little golf.
Christmas usually is a little bit different, but Thanksgiving, there's no reason why you don't go home and congregate with all your brothers and sisters, my mom and dad, and actually my wife's mother, and have a nice Thanksgiving dinner.
This is going to be probably one of the most quietest Thanksgiving that my wife and I have had since we've been together. We've already talked about it. The two of us is going to stay home, and I'm going to be the chef for the week prior to Thanksgiving. My grandparents and my family have sent down some recipes, and I've done it before with some meat pies and some raisin pie and some pecan pie, and I'll cook the turkey. Maybe I'll get Donna to do the stuffing, but I'll be the chef for the week. Down to Florida to spend time with the family, and got some other activities going down in Lakeland, and it'll be neat. You know, John Hunter's getting big enough now where he can go, and he's having a lot of fun, and just be neat with all the nieces and nephews and cousins together.
2001 will be remembered as the year when we lost Dale Earnhardt, but it'll also be remembered as the year when the NASCAR community rose to certain challenges. All the drivers have adapted to wearing a head and neck restraining device for reasons of safety. New aerodynamic rules will be put in place for next year's Daytona in the hopes that it'll break up the pack and avoid the big crash. Dale Jr. bounced back from losing his father. He had victories at Daytona, Dover, and Talladega. And how about Bill Elliott, his first victory since 1994? And of course, the fourth championship for Jeff Gordon at age 30. Richard Petty won his fourth championship at age 35, Dale Earnhardt at age 38. Jeff Gordon has time on his side. 2002 should be a better season, only because 2001 made us wiser. Reporting for Raceline, I'm Dan Hubbard.
And next week here on Raceline, we'll bring you all the glamour and excitement of the weekend in New York City. Well, here at the Richard Petty Driving School, most of the cars look like regular Winston Cup cars. This, of course, Ken Schrader's M&M's Pontiac. A few differences in this car. There's 2 seats in it, for one thing. This is one of the cars used in the ride-along program. If you're not brave enough to drive, you can ride. Here's a number, 1-800-BE-PETTY. Now, one of the differences in what we're going to do here today at the Richard Petty Driving Experience and what happens at the racetrack is we don't have to deal with technical inspection. These cars are already set up to be as safe as they possibly can be, but to give you as much of the real experience as you want, or probably can handle from what they tell me. But the guy in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing who's been taking care of tech for the last 5 years, I guess, is Gary Nelson. He's moving on to another role. He'll be working in the research and development department of NASCAR, dealing with safety, dealing with competition, and dealing with keeping costs down. Gary Nelson, this week on our Raceline Close-Up.
I've been the Winston Cup director for about 10 years now, and in the garage area, looking at the rules, looking at the way we inspect the cars, and really the safety, and then when the races start, we'd get into race officiating mode. Well, now I'm going to move into more nuts and bolts all the time and let John Darby take over as the Winston Cup director, and he can then handle the race officiating and the inspectors and the inspections in the garage area. It gives me time then to concentrate on the Busch Series, the Truck Series, and as always the Winston Cup Series, and try to get the thinking and the rules to a long-term plan where everything kind of builds each year from each of the 3 series, and hopefully make the sport safer and save some money for the car owners, and continue to provide good close competition. Well, certainly safety's number one, everything we look at, and we've got a lot of great ideas that take some time to develop, and so I ought to be able to spend a lot more time figuring out some of the inventions that are coming so quickly nowadays, and then also the competition on the track. Make sure that we do the best job we can to put the cars as closely matched as we can on the track. If the rules make the cars and even the Truck Series close technically, then it becomes the driver versus a driver, which is really what NASCAR is about. The drivers out there racing each other with equipment that is closely matched. And then the last thing, of course, is the cost for the car owners. Maybe we can find ways to save a little money. I think the biggest challenge is probably the same as always, and it's a 3-part deal. You know, safety's number one and always will be. Make the sports as safe and safer as you can. Number 2 is the competition on the track. How much, how easy is it for a Ford, a Chevy, or a Pontiac, or a Dodge to get up front? Will all of one make go by and then all of the rest of them go by? So juggling that balance of competition is a daily process, and it's a big challenge in the future. It's a daily job to make sure that the future's secure for that. And then the last thing is the cost for the car owners. The costs are always rising. When I was a crew chief, we had maybe 10 or 12 guys full-time, and now they're up to maybe 100 guys full-time. Well, certainly learning from the crew chief standpoint, and even before I was a crew chief, a mechanic in the garage that prepared me to be a crew chief. Then being a crew chief prepared me to be the Winston Cup director. Now being having been a Winston Cup director and understanding the problems of the mechanics, the problems of the crew chiefs, the problem of the series directors with the officiating, and now back to nuts and bolts of the cars, I really feel that all of that experience will help me a lot in making decisions in the future. But what I have to always remember is it's a constantly evolving sport, and for me to make good decisions, I have to stay really on at the leading edge of technology. And with this new position that I'm in now, I should be able to spend a lot more time understanding all of the latest technology and hopefully be able to make better decisions from that.
Still to go today on Raceline. All the rumors were made official last week in Atlanta. The driver's shuffle is on. We'll have updates and find out more about the Richard Petty driving experience as Joe takes the wheel. First, here's this week's championship points on our Mechanics Wear scoreboard. Getting the job done and getting it done right. That's what it's all about. What you need is the real stuff. Mechanics Wear gloves. Whether it's here or here, Mechanics Wear gloves make you want to work on something. They fit well, and unlike other gloves, they're not bulky, so you can get into those hard-to-reach places. You get the job done and get it done right. And after all, that's what it's all about. Get the real stuff. Mechanics Wear Gloves. Now available at Napa Auto Parts, AutoZone, Pep Boys, CarQuest, and CSK Auto.
Hi, I'm Benny Parsons. Let me tell you about a product you need in your car. A proven winner, X1R engine treatment. I use it in my vehicles because I like the extra power and gas mileage X1R gives my car. And you know me, I like an engine that lets me feel the power. Do you know X1R is the only lubricant in the world that is certified space technology and has actually been inducted into the NASA Space Technology Hall of Fame? Use the only lubricant in the world that is certified space technology, X1R. It's proven.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Raceline here at the Richard Petty Driving Experience at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. When you come into the experience, this is the first place you stop, the front desk, obviously. Jamie's behind the desk. What do you have to do here, Jamie?
You just have to fill out some forms, and they take about 5 minutes, and that's it.
Then you get a uniform?
Then you suit up, and we get you started.
This is the best part of it, the uniform you get to wear. Let's check out some of the news stories this week in the world of NASCAR racing. All those driver changes we've been talking about for the last few weeks were finally made official last weekend in Atlanta. Jeremy Mayfield joins Ray Evernham driving the number 19 car that unseats Casey Atwood. He'll move over to the Ultra Motorsports team and drive the 7 car, which next year will become a Dodge. Evernham, meanwhile, will run the racing end of the Ultra Motorsports team as a third-team car, a situation that he likes.
That's the side of it that I enjoy, and I don't really care as much for the business side, and if we weren't able to work this out, I don't know what I was going to do, but this was a perfect opportunity for me. You know, what I want to do is pay attention to the cars, the bodies, the motors, the pit crews, the guys. That's what I do. You know, I think I'm more of a technical director than I am an owner.
Jimmy Spencer goes to Chip Ganassi Racing to drive the new Target-sponsored car, number 41. That's the same car that was formerly the 01, which was driven by Jason Leffler. Team owner Chip Ganassi says Spencer and Sterling Marlin will be good together as teammates.
You know, that's something we hope to capitalize on. I mean, you got guys there that are of the same era, and they don't mind sharing information, and believe me, things like this don't happen in a team without having everybody on the team give the high sign, and Sterling was the first guy to stand up and say, hey, I'd love to have Spencer.
Leffler moves to the Ultra Motorsports team to drive the number 2 truck, which was vacated by Scott Riggs. Kenny Wallace will drive the Pennzoil Chevrolet at least until Steve Park comes back, but he will continue even after that, at least for a year, on the payroll at DEI Incorporated.
Well, they offered me a lot of money for a contingency plan, and it's regular Winston Cup driver's money, and I went, wow, you know, so the money did not have the factor. The happiness was the factor. I said, okay, I know what the doctor said about Steve. We'll keep that to ourselves, and we're ready to go.
Richard Childress made it official. Robbie Gordon will drive the number 31 Chevy next year with sponsorship from Singular Wireless.
Well, I'd like to think so, but you know, it's not done. You know, the most important thing I can do is give good information, and hopefully they feel my information is good enough that they can build on for 2002, and obviously performance means a lot as well.
More of today's show right after this.
the thrill of a lifetime. 1-800-B-PETTY.
Great job, buddy. Now, next time you come to the green. Hey, buddy, the light's green. Move it, would you?
Richard Petty Driving Experience. Call about our holiday specials. 1-800-B-PETTY.
This is NASCAR racing. This is NASCAR racing on MRN Radio.
Good stop for the Rainbow Warriors.
One Pontiac and two Fords going at it for position.
Pontiac is down, and he is away.
MRN Radio, the most trusted voices in motorsports, brings you over 80 major NASCAR events each year. Hear it live every week on MRN Radio, the voice of NASCAR racing.
Before we go back to racing school, let's take a look at this week's ARCA REMAX report, brought to you by Pork, the other white meat. Kerry Earnhardt took the win last Saturday in Atlanta in the Pork, the other white meat 400, the season finale. Steve Meal finished second, champ Frank Kimmel was third, rookie Stuart Kirby was fourth, and Tim Steele came in fifth. The ARCA Series rolls back into Daytona in February to kick off the 2002 season. The ARCA REMAX Series update will be back next year. Brought to you by Pork, the other white meat. We're back on this week's edition of Raceline here at the Richard Petty Driving Experience at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And now the fun begins. We're getting ready to drive a car. Brad Mark is the director of the school here at Las Vegas. And what am I about to experience, Brad?
Well, you've gone through the instruction now, Joe, so you kind of know what we're expecting out of you when you get in that car. But going to get out there. We're going to drive 8 laps around this beautiful super speedway. Let's go out there and see what it's like to hop in the driver's seat of a Winston Cup type stock car.
How close is this going to be to what the drivers experience when they're running?
Well, you're not going to have 42 guys trying to pass you for $500,000, but other than that, you're going to get a good feel of what it's like. We're going to send you out there, do 8 laps in this rookie experience. You're going to get out there, and you're going to get a good feel for what these cars are capable of. And it's not race speed, but number one, we're going to be safe. Secondly, you're going to have a great amount of fun. And you're going to get an appreciation for what those guys go through come Sunday morning.
What kind of restrictions should a person be aware of? Can anybody do this?
Yeah, certainly. Anybody. The only restrictions we have is you need to know how to drive a stick shift, and you have to have a driver's license. After that, Joe, we're going to teach you what we need to teach you, give you the equipment that you need. Just come on out, have a good time. Even if you can't drive it, and for the younger ones, that even if you're less than 18, you can come out, take a ride. Put you in the passenger seat for 3 laps here, 3 laps at about 160 miles an hour. I mean, there's just not a better feeling in the world.
I've been talking about racing on MRN and here on Raceline for 20-some years, and I've never been in one. Now I'm going to find out what I've been talking about.
Well, we're going to give you a feel. So now when you go back to work come Monday morning, you'll have a good feel. You'll be an expert.
All right, Brad, let's go.
Have fun. Thank you very much, Joe.
Well, this is kind of a fantasy for anybody that thinks they could drive a race car or would like to drive a race car or wonder what it feels like. What do the drivers go through? This gives them a chance to really be able to get as close as they can without actually getting in a race, spending a lot of money buying a race car. They can come to the driving experience, they can take their course, and then I tell you, the majority of the people when they get out, they can't believe that these drivers do that with 40 other people out there and do it for 400 or 500 miles.
Oh, it's awesome. Great. Everybody ought to do it.
Anything about it particularly surprise you?
Yeah, how much stress is on you at all times going into the corners and everything. It's unreal. I mean, them guys out there, you got to be in shape.
You see these people that's never been in a race car, they've never been over 70 or 80 mile an hour on the road. They get out and they just run 120 or 30 or 40 mile an hour, and they're just walking on air. I mean, they can't believe what they just went through, and you know, it's a deal that very few people get a chance to do things that they dream about all year long or all their life. This gives them a chance to say, okay, you know, I would like to do that, and then when they get out, they say, thank you, Richard, we appreciate you just having a driving experience.
Without a doubt, the biggest reaction we get from the fans is, I had no idea. And it's, I had no idea, and wow, and they're trembling and shaking, and they have an amazing sense of appreciation for what those drivers do on Saturday, Sunday, nose to tail, 180 miles an hour at Charlotte, and 400 or 500 miles.
More of today's show right after this.
There is an alternative to the ordinary. Torque. The other way, me.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Raceline here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Thanksgiving weekend at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. I'm still kind of shaken from that ride. I tell you, it certainly does give you a lot of idea into what goes on behind the wheel, and it's a lot tougher than it looks like from up in the grandstand. Let's check out our fans of the week this week on Raceline.
So, guys, that was cool.
How fast did you think you were going?
He said we were going about 160, but I don't know how they do it with all the other cars around him. It's like when there's one car out there, it's okay, but all the other ones out there would be pretty darn scary.
How fast did it feel like you were going out there?
Oh, probably 130, 135 in there.
This kind of thing you'll want to come do again?
I'll be here again.
Yeah.
It was great. I had a lot of fun. I normally do the quarter-mile drag race stuff, so I'm not used to turning left at the end of the straightaway, but when you're following another car, it was pretty easy.
Would you recommend this to anybody?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And even though I race my own car, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, this is definitely an experience.
It may not look like those guys are going that fast. I'm telling you, from first-hand experience, when you're in the car, it feels like you're breaking the speed of sound. It feels like you're doing about 400 miles an hour out there. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the banquet coming up this weekend in New York. Traditionally, it's been a sit-down dinner type deal. A different arrangement this year. It's going to be sort of a concert-like atmosphere. Totally different program. They hope it will shorten it up and make it a little more exciting. How important is the banquet to racing anyway? They spent a lot of money on it, and everybody goes. Ben White looks at that this week on Ben's Corner.
When NASCAR Winston Cup Racing goes to New York this year, they're going to do so obviously with a heavy heart for several reasons. Of course, the loss of Dale Earnhardt, 7-time Winston Cup champion, back at Daytona on February 18th, 2001 is going to be a date that lives with all of us for many, many years. And not having him at the Winston Cup banquet this year is going to be very, very sad. As far as Jeff Gordon goes, he's been on center stage 3 times. This is his 4th time. He's going to be there center stage, but obviously he's going to do so with a heavy heart as well. He's thinking about Dale Earnhardt. He's thinking about all the lives that were lost in New York. He's thinking about the sad times of this year. So the NASCAR Winston Cup Awards Banquet is a celebration of all the accomplishments that have taken place in the year 2001, and that's what we want to dwell on. Yes, there's sad times, but let's look at the good times and let's move forward and make 2002 even better than 2001. This is Ben White, Senior Editor of NASCAR Winston Cup Illustrated, and that's what I think.
If you have a comment on Ben's thoughts, send it to Raceline. Read more of Ben's thoughts in NASCAR Winston Cup Illustrated. Call to subscribe at 1-800-883-7323. Raceline continues right after this.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Raceline here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. You talk about a fun day, and again, with still some time before Christmas, if you're looking for a gift for a race fan in your life, this would be the perfect gift. And they don't only run the experience here at Las Vegas, they do it at different racetracks all over the country. Chances are they'll be at a track close to you. The number to call is 1-800-B-PETTY. Let me tell you something else good about it. This suit, I kind of like this. Might want to keep it. Next week on Raceline, we can't talk about an upcoming race because there are no more for a couple of months, but we can talk about what's going on in the world of NASCAR. We'll bring you all the highlights from the weekend in New York with the Winston Cup Awards Banquet, and we'll talk to the 2001 NASCAR Winston Cup champion, Jeff Gordon. All that next week here on Raceline. Hope you'll join us then.
Raceline is brought to you by Mechanics Wear. Wear what the mechanics wear. By X1R, run with the best. By Pork, the other white meat. By MRN, the voice of NASCAR. By Fans Racing. Go to fansracing.com. And by the Richard Petty Driving Experience. I'm Jeff Moreau. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.